And let me share my screen. Okay. Okay, everybody sees my screen.
We do.
So, hi, welcome to the Art of Wonderful Websites, which my wife and I ended up hating the name of this, but whatever, it is what it is called today. So the Art of Wonderful Websites, I'm Rick Levine. I have a digital marketing company called Intrackt, and I am also, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've had like a dozen businesses over the past 33 years. The ones that relate to web development that are in the technology space are XBX Channel Media. We were very early on in web development, building online stores, and programming for children, for Tiger Electronics, and building intranets for Motorola. We built a couple of thousand different online stores for the uniform industry under the brand of a company I started called Uniform Market. I've always also had Intrackt for about 10 or 15 years in the background, where I've helped artists, I've helped nonprofits, I've helped businesses. Lately, I've had a rash of comic book companies that have come to me. I've built about 5 online stores for comic book sellers that sell, tens of thousands of comic books. But most important is I'm Kathy Halper's husband. So that, everyone just needs to know that up front. And if you have a problem with that, then, then this is not going to go well.
I have a problem with that. Yeah.
So today's talk is I'm gonna talk for about 40 minutes on 3 topics. I would encourage you, if you feel strongly that you want to interrupt me and ask a question and send me off on a bit of a tangent, that's cool too. I've talked a lot about websites over the years. You won't throw off my game. We will just answer your question, think about whatever is on your mind, and we'll keep going. But the 3 topics are SEO, because inevitably when I talk with artists about their websites, they're always like, well, I really need help with SEO. That's like, this sort of magic elusive thing out there that everyone thinks that they need help with. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about images. After all, you're in a visual business. So we're going to talk about images online, and then the structure of websites. So that's the agenda. And so without further ado, as they say. So SEO in plain words, okay? I'm not going to talk technical with you. I'm going to use very plain English to explain what the heck SEO is and how you can do it, okay? Because we all like being first, but Google only has 10 places for you to be on the first page of Google, right? Everyone with a website asks about getting help with SEO. That's on everyone's mind. That's the mark of success for your website. The reality is everyone can already do it. Okay, this is not an empty promise. I'm going to show you right now the basic tricks of what to do. And everyone with a willingness to work at it can do it, no matter the tool that your website uses. I'm not here to sell you a particular platform saying you should always use WordPress, you should always use Wix, you should always use Shopify. Doesn't matter. They all follow the same principles that I'm about to go through when it comes to SEO, because it's not about the platform, it's about Google, okay? So in order to understand what SEO is and how to apply it, I like to do an exercise where we imagine we are Google, okay? So let's, put on our pretend, hats here, and we are Google right now. So we're gonna try and think like Google. And we're Google and we say, oh, look, we found this website on the internet. Let's look at what's on the website and decide when we should show this website to people who are doing searches. Because we want to help people. Ultimately, we could argue whether tech giants are good or evil, but ultimately Google's job is you enter to search and they want to do their best to show you things that you're interested in based on that search criteria, okay? So now we have this website we found for Pablo Picasso. Okay, Now, what do we do first? Let's look and see if there's a home page, if there's a headline on the home page. Is there a headline saying something? Well, there's no headline, so all I see is 6 pictures. Well, on Google, now what do I do? Okay. Is there any other text on the page that would help me identify when I should show this website to people? Oh, I see these words, new work. I see the words galleries, and I see the word contact. And that's all the text that's on this homepage. So on Google, I guess if people are searching for the words new work or for galleries or contact, I'll try and display your website. Okay, well, good luck, because those are pretty darn common words. So now we've given Google no idea so far, based on these words, what to do. Well, we say, hey, we're Google. We have the smartest scientists working for us. What we should be able to do is we'll know just from the pictures itself. We can analyze a picture and we know just from what the picture is that this is a lamppost, right? We've all done those CAPTCHA exercises, click on all of the stop signs, click on all of the, cars, right? So you're actually helping Google learn by those, but that's a different conversation. So Google says, well, I'm going to look at these pictures and say what they are. Okay, well, I'm Pablo Picasso. Good luck looking at my pictures. Maybe this is a plastic surgery website because these are really disfigured faces. Maybe this is a children's website because some of these really look like cartoons and they have these bright colors and things are kind of wacky. So maybe I'll try to toss this up for those keywords, right? Not going to work. Maybe we could use the image file names. Because on Google and I'm looking through a website and I see what the pictures are named. Oh, well here, I found this name. It's called image34501-cropped44.jpg. Okay, so I'm Google. So now I know that IMG is important to you. The word cropped is important to you. The numbers 34501 and 44 must also be important. Okay, great. So if that was your goal, you've now let Google know that those things are important to you. I found another picture. It's DSC 1011. So I actually did this just as an exercise for this presentation because I randomly made up, in order to prepare this slide, DSC-1011, and I went and I Googled it, and it brings up a course on terrorism. Okay, so because a lot of times when the digital camera loads it, it's just like, digital source code dash and then the name of the picture. And so if you leave it named that, Google's going to use that information. All right. So let's break it down now that I've done the Smart Alec presentation for you. Okay. Let's take what we just learned from pretending to be Google and translate that into actionable items. Use text on your pages. Otherwise, Google has no idea how to classify you. They can't tell just from the pictures. So use text on your pages. Make the text easy to understand. Don't be so clever that Google can't then figure out how to display, you at appropriate times. And use words that will help Google understand what is on the page. This isn't lying. This isn't a trick, right? This is just simply helping Google. Google wants you to help them understand what's on your page. So for instance, I'm using this artist I know, Kathy Halper, and on her homepage, she wrote, "My narrative artworks are inspired by my sense of humor, creative exploration, rich palettes, storytelling skills. I've created political narratives through oil on board, cardboard 3D paintings," right? So this is just an honest, accurate description that I encouraged her to write and put on her homepage, but without even thinking about it, she now has all these keywords that Google will say, oh, if somebody's searching for oil on board, or cardboard 3D paintings, or embroidery drawings, or contemporary folk art, at least now this page stands a chance. At least now Google knows a little bit more about what's on the page. Okay. So use text on your pages. Use text on or near images as well, right? So even if the text only shows up when you hover over it, so like most artists, Kathy Halper wasn't keen on there being lots of texts, around the pictures. She wanted her pictures to, be like on display at a gallery, like this is, you know, here's my artwork on the wall. But so when you roll over these images, then it will display the text contemporary folk art. It's not a picture that says contemporary folk art. It's not swapping out a photo. Remember, Google can't read text if it's in the photo, okay? They can read text in a PDF, but they can't read the text in a photo. So if you're gonna do a rollover, make sure that the site uses text. And then again, use words that Google will understand what's going on the page, right? Don't just say new work. Say what kind of new work, so Google can help you when people are looking for the work. Okay, now let's talk about those file names. Use your name in the file name, right? A lot of times you will meet people, you will meet patrons, they will remember you from an art fair, from a show. So when they are Googling you, they go to click on images, like we all do that, right? We look for an artist and then we click on images and we're hoping they come up on the Google images. Super helpful for Google if you use your name as an artist in the name of the picture. So instead of it just being GSC-1011, name it Kathy Helper. And then here, I gave an example of the name of the picture, like this, oops, God darn it. You know, the name of this one happens, she calls it Bergen Roofs. I threw in that it's 48 inches. I threw in that it's graphic oil painting, .jpg. Who
It helps to spell it right.
Oh, okay, well, there you go. Who cares if it's 50 characters long for the name of the picture? I don't care. Do you care? When you're looking at a picture, do you go, why'd they name that picture so, you know, that JPEG so long? They don't care. But Google appreciates it. Google says, wow, look at all this information in the name of this picture that I can now use when I'm trying to decide when to display this picture, or if somebody's doing a search, what is about that picture that's unique, right? So that's something you can control. You don't have to pay somebody to do SEO for you. You know how to name your pictures. When you load them to your website, that's the name that it should use. By the way, if you are using a tool though that's renaming your pictures, you need a new tool. So because you should control the names of your pictures. So when you right click on that picture and you say save this image as, if it's not showing you the right name, then Google's not seeing it. Okay. If your tool allows it, I encourage you then to also make sure that the name of your page, so for instance, let's just talk about WordPress, but a lot of them work the same way. Whatever you name the page is what they're going to use after the slash. So it's artist name / new work. So if your page is titled new work, but if it's titled, contemporary folk art, new work, contemporary folk art, right? Then it's going to use all of those words. One of Google's original, most favorite ways to decide whether or not to display something to someone is based on the URL names. Websites since 1996, when all this got rolling with Google, it has gotten a lot more sophisticated, but they still highly value what's in the URL. So your page names really count. So use words that Google will understand that will help them know what is on the page. Sometimes the tool will allow you that the page might be named contemporary folk art, but they'll also allow you to change what the slug or what the URL or what the permalink, like different platforms have different ways that they define it, but you can also change that. So instead of it being new work, it could be new oil paintings, mountains, gardens, farmers. Now you stand a much more likely chance if somebody's searching for art, like I want oil paintings of mountains, and I happen to be the buyer for Hilton Hotels and I'm looking for 500, pictures. So, granted, an arts, patron who finds you at an art fair may not be looking for you in these ways. And, we may think it's a little crass, like, oh, this is not, this is too much like a business type of thing. Well, it is. So get over it. Okay, that's enough on that. Okay, so that was SEO. Now I'm going to say don't F around with images, okay? Just don't screw with them. And what do I mean by that? It means they need to be professional, right? If you can't take professional pictures yourself, you need to find someone that can take professional pictures of your work if you're going to be loading them online. They have to be professional. They have to be sized correctly. And you just can't say good enough on the internet. Say that if they're really going to buy my art, they'll come see me. No, they won't. If the image is crappy, you've lost them. That's it. They're gone. So they have to be professional and they need to be sized correctly. And also because it affects all of these things. We talked about SEO, but the quality of your images as an artist online affects your sales. It affects your reputation. It affects relationships to other things. It affects trust. Like, how do I trust this? You know, it affects your bounce rates. A bounce rate is somebody finds you on the internet because they've searched for you. They arrive at a page on your website. If the picture's not good, that's the only page on your site they're going to. Now they've bounced somewhere else, okay? So bounce rates are important when you start talking about traffic and how your website performs. If you want a wonderful website, then you want people to visit at least half a dozen pages on your website. You want them to spend more than 30 seconds on the website. Bounce rates on your Google Analytics, look at them and look for bounce rates. If those are above 50%, you know, then that's something, you know, to worry about. But it's all dependent. It doesn't automatically mean something's bad, but it affects conversions, the quality of your photos, right? Everyone says, you know, well, they will or they won't buy from me online, but quality images means that they convert. It affects the amount of traffic you get, the continuity, the views, your engagement, the speed, the performance. Load crappy images, load large, just massive images because you haven't taken the time to size them correctly. Now your website slows down and now Google penalizes you. Yes, if you have a slow website, Google penalizes you. That's a whole nother discussion on what they will reward you for and what they will penalize you for. They don't remove you, right? But they penalize you. So what do I mean by size it right? It's the Goldilocks, you know, paradox. You don't want them too big and you don't want them too small, right? You want them just right. We want the correct size, but a screen size is 72 dots per inch. I so many times go to an artist's website and they have loaded an 8 meg file that is 5,000, you know, DPI wide, because that's where the image came out of their camera, and they just figure the website software is going to take care of it for them, and it doesn't. So now you've loaded something that's 5,000 or 6,000 pixels wide. Well, I have news for you. Most people's computers are only 1,920 pixels wide by 1,080 pixels tall. So if you format your, and then it goes down, you know, goes down from there, like 16% or even smaller than that. So yes, there's some people that have these giant, you know, screens, but the average user, this is the most common screen size, is 1,900 by 1,000, you know, just round it out, or 2,000 by 1,000. So, so what do we want to do then? We want to make pictures that aren't bigger than the typical screens. So at 1,500 pixels by 1,500 pixels, that almost fills the whole screen. That's plenty big. If you have software that allows people to zoom in on the image, then this example at Kathy Halper is 2,500 pixels by 2,000 pixels. And look at that zoom. This is the page before zoom. And now look at how big it can go in, and it still looks clear to get in on those characters, those figures, right? And that's all she needed, was 2,500 by 2,000. She didn't need 6,000. 6,000 wide is too big. It's going to slow down the website. Google's going to penalize you. You're going to have a frustrated visitor because now they're waiting for things to download, blah, 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 blah. So my best advice here is don't F with images. Take the time to size them correctly. Don't load giant images. Let's move on to website structure.
While you're taking a drink, Rick, can I ask, are you going to go into mobile friendly and how important that is at some point?
I don't know. No, I guess I'm not in
Okay,
this talk.
we'll save that
We
at the
can
end.
schedule a time for that.
Okay,
Mobile friendly is important. Um, all contemporary content management systems, which a WordPress or a Wix or these um, what's another one? Shopify I mentioned earlier.
They're people's
Um,
pixels,
they
probably.
they're all mobile friendly. They all will adjust
okay.
based on mobile. Some are better at it than others, but yes, it's a good idea to basically. What mobile friendly means nowadays is that you're configured for 3 sizes, for computers, tablets, and phones. So and everyone wants nice and easy. People are lazy. So when you think about the structure of your site, don't make people think, okay? And they absolutely, absolutely judge a book by its cover, okay? So what you have on the homepage is absolutely, I don't care what philosophy you live your life by, they're absolutely gonna make a judgment right away. When we meet someone, it's human nature, we make a judgment right away. When we go to a homepage, we make a judgment right away. So use common sense when you're laying it out. Don't be too clever about hiding things, right? The whole Easter egg idea. Oh, you have to click on my welcome, or you won't get in, right? Don't be clever. Use the header and footer areas. We're all trained at this point. That's where I need to go. If I don't see something on the homepage that I was expecting to see and I'm looking for it, instinctually as a consumer myself, I'm looking in the header or I'm looking in the footer, right? So don't be clever about it. Just go, be straightforward in those areas. Be clever everywhere else in the content areas. Be as clever as you want, but don't screw with the headers and footers. Here's the Evanston Made site that Kathy Helper manages, and I'm the whatever it is, the backup tech guy that makes it all work. As far as the header goes, then small words. Okay, don't make it complicated. I'm lazy. Don't make it hard for me to know where to go. Use a few words, have direct paths to get to places. Now, in this case, if you've all been to Evanston Made, when I roll over what we do or members, it does expand to a mega menu where I have lots of choices. But I can also just quickly click members and I'm going to go somewhere. I can click about and I'm going to go somewhere. And also, there's just not, it's a funnel, right? So keep the top of the funnel thin, small, right? And give me a place to start, and then start offering me more options once you have me at shop. So you have me at shop, great. Oh, now I see there's lots more options for shop. But don't
if
make
I
it.
can, if I can interject here, just because like Evanston Made is an example of like, it's pretty, the website has so much going on that the menu has a tendency to want to like get bigger and bigger and bigger and more complicated. So we are constantly trying to, like what Rick's saying, the funnel effect. So just, when you're thinking about like what pages you need, I think generally less is better. And then, having pull downs where people can go into like more detailed stuff. That's all.
Yeah. And also, I'm impressed with how Evanston Made has evolved their defining text. Remember, I talked a lot 20 minutes ago about, let Google know right away. So if Google wants to show a website about, Evanston arts and the public and discovering Evanston art events, right? Then Evanston Made now, SEO wise, stands a really good chance of Google rewarding it for Evanston art events. Because
I'm going to jump in again and say that we specifically wrote that text because when we want people to Google Evanston art events and find it, we thought that was something people might be Googling. We want Evanston Made to come up for that. So that was like that, to Rick's point, that was something specifically done to try to, work into Google's thought process.
Right. And Kathy was able to just go into the website and change the text. You didn't need a professional web artist. Just pretend you're Google, pretend you're someone using Google. What are the words you want them to find? Okay. Contact, provide multiple ways to contact you. One of the most frustrating things for all of us is, going to a website and not being able, to contact people. Phone, I'm a fan of all of them. I'm a fan of putting phone, of email, of having a form for people to contact you, and also adding a mailing list. On Kathy's, there's a pop-up, right? That once per session, I believe it is, and on certain pages, then it pops up to join the mailing list, and then it goes away. You don't want to be annoying, but you also don't want to be shy. I liken it to if you set up at an art fair, what type of artist are you? Okay, yes, sometimes you hold back and you don't engage with the people that come into the booth, and then other times they ask you a question or something like that, and you're like, oh, be sure to sign my mailing list, and I'll send you stuff, and I don't know what, you'll get free Tootsie Rolls. Don't be shy, and allow multiple ways to contact you. Don't make it difficult. This kind of ties into what Kathy was talking about with the goal for Evanston Made was to have a headline that made sense. So if Pablo Picasso was trying to market his work, he might say, well, you should all start collecting Cubist art before everyone else discovers it and my stuff gets really expensive, right? So you can think of your homepage, as that advertisement in Art America for, who are you trying to attract? Who are the readers of Art in America that you're looking to speak to? So if it's to attract galleries, then have something that leans into that on the website. Don't just assume that it's all the same approach for attracting galleries versus attracting individuals. Think of it as a brand. Like, how would I market this as a brand to a gallery versus how I'm going to market it as a brand at an art fair to individuals coming by? So this is, the cover of your store. Also think in terms of what's above the fold is what they used to say in newspapers for people that used to read it on print. There was the concept that the newspaper was folded in half. And so you would look at the paper, just half of it first, before you unfolded the before you unfolded the front page of the newspaper. I think of websites as the same way, right? Before I scroll, what's above the fold? Those are the things that should be the most important. And also, those should be spoon-fed to me. Don't make everything the same size there, right? So here, there's a headline, there's smaller text. This is, there's a central image, there's sub-images, there's additional thoughts. If everything is the same, then nothing is important. If everything is the same size on your homepage, then nothing on your homepage is important. Because I promise you, everything can't be important. That's not the way the brain works. So guide me as a visitor. Like, this is what I want you to notice first. If this interests you, you'll click on it. If it doesn't, I have these other ideas for you. But it's, again, go back to the newspaper idea, right? If you were a newspaper that was going to lay out the front page with, your artwork, what would they do? Well, the photo editor would say, this is the shot that I want. This one will be big here. And then they'll say, and then this next shot we're going to put over here as an inset, and that's where they're going to click to, order prints of your work. Okay, that's enough on that. A common sense product page. Keep a tight, clear layout, group related content. Okay, so for instance, on this layout, you can look at alternate views of the image. Oh, Kathy, I see you. Kathy even loaded the back of the picture, just to to prove that it's a Picasso. Then this content is grouped here neatly to purchase it. And then in the next few slides, I'm going to talk about what's happening down here. But don't what's my point here? My point is, I go to a lot of sites and the name of the picture's up here, the picture's here, the description is down off to the right, right? There's no, like, you know, you're all visual people, right? So lay it out in logical groupings to help me as the visitor, you know, understand. So on this page, this is the most important. I want you to digest this, look at it, enjoy it. Then the second most important thing is you'll start coming over here and say, oh, that's what it's named. Does that inform me more about the picture? Do I now have an emotion associated with the name? Oh, and then there's a description, and then, you know, even more, you know, details if I'm curious. So guide me, guide me, guide me, guide me. So then you can get into bells and whistles. If you want a wonderful website, you can start to, you know, a lot of the online services that offer to help artists, which, you know, we'll do at Intrackt as well, but it's not like we're the only ones doing this, right? So we connected, for example, Kathy is now connected to a service called Printful. What Printful allows is that she can take her, so if this picture, I think it said it was $700, if somebody just wants to buy a $50 print of it, they can now click on the website under the prints area. It'll take them to another product that's been added. They select the size of the print they want. It automatically will send that order to Printful, and Printful accepts the order, prints it, and ships it to the shopper. Kathy doesn't have to do anything. It's a drop ship service for artists. Printful's not the only one offering it. Just the due diligence that Kathy did and ordered a print of something and felt that the quality and the paper and everything was good. So Printful is one example of an easy, quality, affordable way to do that. I think it's, you know, people are becoming more and more comfortable with buying artwork online. Everyone has their price point of, I'm willing to, you know, risk $99 to buy something online. I'm willing to risk $999. Like, you know, everyone has sort of, as a consumer, those price points, but prints are a lot of fun to add for those that it's appropriate for. Obviously, you know, Liz, a ceramic artist, prints aren't going to, you know, apply as much, but this would be for painters.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like, it's happening all the time.
What is?
Well, okay, because I mean, it went down on both things.
Well, I don't think she's talking to us.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
So another thing that's become popular that people are experimenting with is placing your art in a virtual room. There's a few tools out there that you can do this with. You pay them a monthly fee. It installs as a widget onto your website. This is a great new way to use technology to sell artwork online. Think of it like the, you know, this is a $2,500 piece. Is it okay if I take this piece home, put it above my sofa, you know, to see if it's going to work in the room, and pretend that I didn't insult you by saying that it needs to look good with my sofa. So, so this is an example, for instance, on Kathy's site that we installed Art Placer. So Art Placer, then Kathy selected rooms that she would like people to be able to select. I think she selected 4 rooms, like a kitchen and a bedroom and a dining room and a living room. And then no matter the page they go to, they can click on that and it takes the artwork and puts it in a proportional place, and then they could slide it around on the wall to see how they would like it, if they like it.
That piece is way too small for that room.
Yeah,
that piece is way too small for that room. I would not buy it.
Well, you never know, because there might be other things on my wall already, Kathy.
That's true, there might. I'm sorry.
So this does come at a cost, right? These are add-ons to the websites, but we're seeing this, you know, definitely is like out there. More and more artists are experimenting with this and doing this. It also, the interior designers love it. You can also put on an upgraded feature Art Placer has, and I know some of the others that are competitors to Art Placer do this, where I can load my own picture. So I could actually take a snapshot of my living room and I could load the picture and then it'll drop the artwork right on my own picture. 4:39, pretty good. I said I would talk for 40 minutes and that is 40 minutes. I'm Rick Levine. The site is intrackt.com. If you did want further consulting or help, I'm available. Kathy and I have worked on a few artist websites also together because she speaks artist. So, that's also helpful to have someone that's a fellow artist working on a site with you. So that's my shameless plug. Let's open for questions and discussion. Who's got something?
Anybody?
I do.
Yeah.
Over here.
Oh, Shelley.
Shelley. I have a platform that is designed by artists for artists, other people's pixels.
Mhm.
And the encouragement that we get when we are sizing our images is to make them really big. 4,000 max, 2,500 minimum width. And nothing, they don't want anything small. And I assume this is because the zoom they have a good zoom function.
Mhm.
I tested on what I have. I haven't tested on everything out there. And I
Is it
suppose that's
how
what
much
they do.
how big DPI is it? Is it like 72 DPI?
Well, it's
They
always
don't
going to be
care. They
70.
just want pixels. I mean, it doesn't matter, right? I mean, I use 300. I use a 300, and I make them around 3,600 pixels wide.
So the screens are always 72 dots per inch. That's a unwavering standard in the computer industry.
Right, including the one I'm on.
Right, exactly. So when they say 4,500, they mean it. So I would follow their guidelines, right? For me, it's too big, but they must have their reasons, right?
Are they scaling it down, do you think? Are they taking the
they
biggest?
might be in a thumbnail. I don't actually know. I mean, I'm familiar with them, but I haven't like looked under the hood to say what they're doing with the images.
Mhm.
If the page loads slowly, then that would be a concern.
Sure.
But if they are, like you're saying, maybe they take the big one, and then like what WordPress will do is it'll take a 2,500 pixel image, and then it'll create like 4 or 5 different sizes that
Yes.
then get used in different places. So other people's pixels might be doing that, and then that optimizes like the category page, so it shows the thumbnails.
Sure.
But yeah, I wouldn't worry if they're recommending the 4,500. It's not like, I would go to them and say, hey, I attended this webinar and this other dude said, that I should only be doing 2,500. What's going on? Because these are all, at the end of the day, opinions about what best practice is to lead to optimal performance. If they've got it running with 4,500, and like Kathy was saying, or I think you may have been saying, Shelley, maybe their zoom is greater, right? Maybe maybe they really want people to go into, to see the brushstroke. So, so that's fine. I wouldn't worry too much about that. I definitely would look into the naming if you hadn't been, paying attention to how you're naming them. Include your name on the photos, and hopefully they're honoring all of that and not renaming it when they, right? Because if you are loading a big image and they're resizing it, hopefully they're not renaming it also.
A good point.
They might add something on. They might say, Shelley _900, Shelley _600, right? So they name the different sizes. That's okay, right? If they add something at the end of the name, that'll be okay. As long as the Shelley is still in the name, that way when people Google, they hopefully find you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have another question about images. When we, I think it was the session we had about a month ago about writing your, in your voice. And the lady said something about how everything should have a watermark. All your images should have watermarks on them.
I was at that talk. Yeah.
How did you feel about that?
I don't like it for artists.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I don't like um, destructive. In Photoshop, they call it destructive, right? So in Photoshop, there's things you can do that are destructive to the image, and there's things you can do that leave the original alone, but make, add layers or masks or things like that. And to me, watermarks are destructive. Like I don't want to look at that as a consumer. It's like
It's I mean, people have very strong opinions about this, and I think it's kind of an older point of view, is that, you want to mark your work to protect it from being stolen. And I sort of feel like in this day and age, everything's out there. Everyone can get anything they want. And it's kind of, what's the point of doing that? If you are the only person who can paint the way you do. Someone can try to copy you, but they're not going to, I mean, I don't know. I just sort of personally don't feel like, what's the point of it anymore?
And if they're going to use your work as a muse and copy you, the watermark doesn't matter, right? The watermark is for if they're going to take the image and make prints of it and then sell it, okay, maybe they will.
And occasionally that happens. People find,
I think people do that.
Yeah, I mean, people have accused Urban Outfitters of stealing their art and putting it on T-shirts and stuff like that. And so if you are very concerned about that, and that's like a very important thing to you, then yeah, I guess you should use a watermark. It's not something I'm concerned about.
Yeah, I understand both points of view. I was just curious to know what you guys think.
Yeah, I think people have different opinions on it.
Yeah.
And if I can interject, I mean,
I'm inclined not to do it. Just
from a promotional standpoint, if I have to take an extra step to promote your work by emailing you and asking for a picture, it might really annoy me. Just from I have to do more because now it's watermarked. So just making it, as like Rick has been saying, making it as easy as possible for people to engage on your website is really crucial.
Sure. Yeah, I can see that. Yep.
And I'm curious, because I don't know the answer, like, what are the big boys doing? What does Saatchi do? Does Saatchi watermark?
No.
Yeah, so I would take the cue from the big boys, right? So, because if they were concerned about it, the other thing about watermarks these days is I always laugh when I see immature or naive marketers who have used a Shutterstock photo and didn't bother to buy it, and it still has the Shutterstock watermark on it, right? And they'll use that in an ad, and pay to have that ad in there, and it says Shutterstock on it. So watermarks have gotten a bad rep in my brain, right? It's only for the royalty, websites, not for real artist, stuff. But I'm too trusting, right? And
it's actually a big topic. I mean, we could do a professional development just on the whole copyright topic. So these are just
actually a really good idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Protecting yourself, where you should be paranoid and where you can let it go.
It's actually on the list for January.
Oh, it's already scheduled.
We wouldn't go that far, but it's on the list for January. So.
It's done.
Shelley, are you raising a hand? No? Okay.
No? Okay.
Actually, I have a quick question, Rick. It's Catherine. What do you have a preference or any recommendations on e-commerce platforms?
Well, I have a preference. I'll start with that word.
Okay.
Lately I have exclusively been building on WordPress and WooCommerce websites. I would say in the past 4 years, I've built, dozens of e-commerce sites using those tools. Why do I like them? They're open source. So open source means that I'm not married either to the hosting company or to the web developer that I've hired to work on it, because they're open source and any other web developer or hosting company can pick up my site and help me. I can move it somewhere else if I'm unhappy, and I can ask somebody else because Sally is no longer, working on websites, doesn't have time for me, said something mean to me, whatever it is, right? It's like, so now I'm going to hire, Heidi, and Heidi can take over because WordPress and WooCommerce are open source. That's part one. Part two is there are literally thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of plugins for WordPress and WooCommerce. So the likelihood that you have an idea for functionality in mind, somebody's already built a plugin. Think of plugins like the apps on your phone. Like, I have my phone, I can do certain things, but now I also want to draw. So I go and I download an app that allows me to draw. So a plugin says, okay, I have my online store, but I want people to be able to see 3D views of my product. Oh, well, now I'm going to download a plugin that allows me to load up a series of images and it'll create a 3D view of my product. Might be cool for a mug, Liz, right? So, and there's just, since WordPress advertises, oh, and by the way, the other word I keep saying is WooCommerce, W-O-O commerce. So it was its own plugin, and then WordPress about 10 years ago bought it because they were so popular that WordPress, the company, which is called Automatic, so Automatic bought WooCommerce, and that's when I said that's going to be where I want to move, because they have, WordPress, they claim, different websites will say different things, but WordPress runs about 1/3 of the websites that are online. I mean, do you realize how massive that is? Like 1/3 of all websites run on WordPress. So the community behind it, the stability of the platform and the software, is just, am I being too geeky? I'm getting smiles.
Maybe a touch. Well, we're all big fans of WordPress. But I think it would be helpful if you can at least touch on your opinions of, BigCommerce and Squarespace and, just like as comparison, because those are names that a lot of artists may have been hearing about and curious about. Why aren't you using those? Why, or why shouldn't someone? I know you don't know all that much about all of them, but.
So good point. If you're going to do it yourself, right, then Square and others, and someone's saying Shopify. Shopify is fine, right? If you're going to do it yourself and not have any outside help, those platforms, those platforms work fine, and they're very friendly. Typically, although I just talked to a comic book retailer this morning out in California, and he is fed up with Shopify and can't stand it, and found me online. When I showed him all of the stuff that we're doing for other comic companies in WooCommerce, right, he immediately is sold. And because I can go in and affect all the code. When you're in a controlled space like Shopify, you're limited with what you can ask an outsider to come in and do. But for using it yourself, and basic stuff on other people's pixels is probably fine. Last Kathy and I had looked at other people's pixels. We were not impressed with their templates, like their out of the box templates. Right?
I've seen some really, since we looked, I've actually seen some nice websites. So I think, we just weren't looking that deep or whatever. But
what's the name of the super aggressive people, Kath, that now we get emails from every day?
Artist storefronts. Art storefronts.
So I opted into their list, and I selected the most least interested, because I wanted to be honest, like, hey, I'm just checking you out. And, I get something every day from them, super aggressive. So their platform looks great, though. It looks like it's really good, really geared towards online sales, though.
Yeah, this is more than just a website. When you work with these guys, you're basically joining a club, and occult perhaps.
Yeah.
And like they're very into marketing and promo, and they like have demonstrations of talks every day, and they're very much about reproductions and prints. I think that's where they probably end up making a lot of money, but they build websites for artists, and
But
very strong
like,
sales.
remember I was showing you like the layout of the page, and think about the flow and what's important. What we've noticed is when you go to their pages, buying the prints becomes almost the most important.
More important than the art.
Like it's like, oh yeah, you'll buy this artwork. But really what we want you to look at is how awesome these print tools are for ordering, right? Hey, Andrea, tell us
What is the name of that again, please?
I just typed it into the chat. Art
Andrea, what's
storefronts.
your experience with Shopify? Because you mentioned in the chat that you're a Shopify user.
Yeah, I've been using Shopify for probably about 5 years. I used it for a retail store that I had in Chicago, as well as an online store that I ran for about 12 years. But I only started using Shopify for the last maybe 5 years of my business, because what I needed was a platform that could integrate the QuickBooks, and it could integrate shipping, and it could integrate PayPal, so that I wasn't like an octopus with 8 legs going all over the place trying to corral everything. It helped me run my business smoother.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I went to Shopify.
And you're doing it yourself, so that's great. If you're
Well, and I didn't really do it myself. I had someone help me. I picked out a template, and I hired someone to kind of build it to look like something I wanted. And that was great. But then when I closed that business in 2018 and 2019, and started doing my ceramics, I was thinking about Squarespace. I was thinking about WordPress. I was thinking about Shopify. And you know what? My head is only so big, and I'm old, and I can't learn new things as quickly as I used to. So I figured I'm going to use something that I already know how to use. And it's a big payoff for me right now, because I can do so much stuff by myself really quickly. And with my daughter, who has her own business and runs her shop on Shopify, can help me answer all the questions I need. Yeah. I can pick out the copy. I can pick out the design. I can pick out, I use the same template. So I'm
a satisfied customer.
Yeah, I'm happy with it.
Okay,
yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with Shopify. For the record, though, most contemporary, if not all contemporary e-commerce platforms tie into the third-party applications that you were describing, right? Everybody's got QuickBooks tie-ins and PayPal tie-ins, and
well, now they do. But when I was doing it 5 years ago, no, I couldn't find that.
Okay.
Which was one of the problems that I was having. So
that might have been why Shopify got so popular. Maybe.
Yeah, right.
Right. That's awesome. Yes. Yeah. Cool. What else? Is anybody else using currently a platform we haven't talked about?
So I use Wix, and right now it's just there as I have a website, and I don't do anything with it. And I see that you can, add, I guess, e-commerce parts to it, and I'm a little intimidated by it, to be honest with you. And I don't know if I should stay with it or not. It's, I have it till January, and then they're going to charge me again. So,
Wix is only like $10 a month, right? I mean, it's inexpensive.
It's fine. It's fine. It's not that it's so expensive. I just don't really do anything with it.
Well, you just, you have to understand what your goals are. I mean, for some people, all they really want is to know that they have a portfolio up on the internet. If they ever want to send somebody to see their work, that's it. And it can just sit there, and that's all. That's what they need. I mean, so you have to decide if you want to be more active, proactive, I guess.
No, you're right. Right now, that's it. As people say, do you have a website? I go, yes. And it's been good enough.
Yeah.
Right.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deborah?
Yeah. So I'm curious now, this question of, do you hire somebody to do it for you? Do you try to do it yourself? Um, so I've heard all about Squarespace and Shopify and Wix, and I didn't know people use WordPress anymore. The question is, at what point, like if I were to hire you, Rick, and Kathy to do a website, then would I be able to update it myself or add more pictures or something like that? Because that's one of the advantages that I've heard. You can make changes to things that you do yourself. On the other hand, there is a learning curve, and so that's one question. And then the other would be, at what point do you hire someone? Do you think of the copy and the template that you like and get all your photographs taken and all of your descriptions and all of that, so you have your assets and your content, and then hire somebody? Or do you work with the person, during the whole phase? And then the third question is, like, what is the general range of cost for, I guess it really depends on what you want on it, but to have just some WordPress site with a Shopify possibility that you could add later on, for example.
Okay. Thank you for trusting that I could remember all of those questions all at once.
Well, I will remind you again if you can't. No.
So, the first question, I believe, is answered kind of like what Andrea said, which is that, it's like you get used to software, and all software is intimidating until you learn the interface. And then once you do learn the interface, it all just seems, very natural that, that it's updatable. Yes, I'm partial to WordPress, and, the reason that 1 billion, websites run on WordPress is because it's easy to update. 100% the way we work as developers is we definitely empower our clients and then teach them and say, okay, so here's what we built. Here's how we added this content, right? So now you can go in and be managing it yourself moving forward, and then just come to us when either you're stuck, something's broken, or you want to expand something, or you run out of time, right? People, like, that happens too. Like, you definitely want to, the reason that we don't recommend hiring the neighbor's kid to help is because then when you run out of time and you want somebody else to say, okay, well, I just did a dozen new pieces and I want them all loaded, but luckily I have 2 commissions and I would rather spend my time working on the commissions. So here's the dozen pictures. Can you load them this time for me and just charge, for your time to do it? So, I would look for a partner developer that, will work with you that way. That's not always this big project, oriented thing. You asked about timing of hiring them. There's no one way that gets done. I definitely am a huge fan. If you follow my posts and my blog and all of that, the letting go of perfection is a big part of my gestalt. So I definitely don't recommend waiting until you have absolutely every asset ready and perfect, to engage in building a new website or redesigning one, because the website should be iterative. It should be that, oh, look, I got this section up and running. I'm proud of it. Now I can worry about these other parts. Now, so it should just be this ongoing living thing that puts you, and I promise you, just like as an artist, you may look at work from a year ago or 10 years ago and you go, what the hell was I thinking? You're gonna feel that way about websites, right? You're gonna be like 6 months later, why did I think that was the right way to do it? Why did I think that looks good, right? So you also want something that won't lock you in, right? Like, I'm sure at this point, Andrea is comfortable saying, I don't like the images that are on the homepage of Shopify. And now she knows how to go in and, sort of rearrange things and, do that. So, yeah.
The only thing I can say that's a distinction of, say, working with Rick, which in fact then becomes working with me too, if you want, is that, like, for instance, I would sit and talk to you about, like, what kind of look you like, what kind of other, whose websites you like. Let's look at other artists and see what you would like to pattern after. what kind of copy approach do you want? I mean, if you write your own copy, that's fine. I'm a former copywriter, so I write copy as well, but it's also, you know, I don't know that artist pages need, you know, that. It's whatever you're comfortable with. So, you know, it's if you're going to go to Shopify or Squarespace, you know, you can always find somebody to help you with, get opinions and stuff, but it's not, it doesn't come with the package. So that's the only thing is, you know, it would be very customized and very personal process is how, you know, we do it. It's not a do-it-yourselfer thing there, but you can, but then like you're talking about updating. Yeah.
And they're both really good teachers. And it isn't impossible to teach yourself the parts of WordPress that you would know to make minor updates and tweaks. It's obviously more complicated than Squarespace, but they're great tutorials, and I sort of figured it out.
Well, yeah, that's probably true about Shopify too, but that's a good point, Liz, is another reason I love, even for myself, WordPress and WooCommerce is you Google like how to do something. There's literally like 100 videos on YouTube because everyone like me is trying to sell you on their services for helping you with their WordPress site. So they've done a video on how to do it, right? Yeah. And so, you know, so even for myself, I'll be like, wait, how do I, you know, blah, 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 what code do I need to do this? And, so there's just a massive community around it. But, you know, Shopify has such a massive following now too. There's a million videos, you know, and Wix has a big following. It's all coalescing. You know, what's interesting is these aren't the names we would have mentioned if we had this webinar 10 years ago or 20 years ago. It's like the software, it's evolutionary. It keeps changing, right? I wasn't always a huge, you know, WordPress, WooCommerce, you know, guy. And when we built Uniform Market, we built our own. We found that we could not accomplish what we were doing really complicated things. We were building websites for like JetBlue employees to go and log in to order their uniforms. And right, it's like, so these were much more complicated and they had to integrate with big systems. So that's a different idea. We had to write our own. We couldn't find anything that was gonna work. That was
well, I think I was asking primarily because I've had experience in a more corporate environment where it's very complicated and there's so many people involved and it takes forever and there's so many emails and like to me it's just a nightmare thinking about a website. So this is nice because it's simplified, it's very clear, and you know, I could see where it would be more doable, and obviously I'm the client.
You should talk with Kathy then, because then it'll be even less geek speak that I might have, right? She'll just talk to you as an artist and then translate to me for anything that, you know, needs to be tech.
And 9 out of 10 artists will walk up to you and say, God, I need a website, but 9 out of 10 of them don't want to bother with the headache of doing it. So, you know, you're not alone in that.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? When we had a house in the suburbs, Deborah, I didn't own a lawnmower. I'm like, look, people pay me.
Have to do with anything.
Because the point is that people pay me to do things they don't want to do, like build websites, right? I was like, I'm fine paying somebody else to mow the lawn because I don't like to do that, right? So.
All right, we've been here for an hour. Anybody else got anything? Or can I, because he'll keep going.
Would you tell me the range of costs?
Oh, price. She was asking about price.
Oh, so we've been telling artists that $300 gets you a basic website.
That's a bargain.
Yeah, and then, you know, depending on what you need, then depending on what the hosting would be, 10 to 25 bucks, right? 10 bucks if there's no e-commerce, call it 25 if there's e-commerce. I run my own servers, right? So I have, you know, 50 sites running on a server, say, and so that's all just, you know, built in. And so you're getting also, the other nice thing is when you work with a local web developer, right? I'm not the only one, I didn't invent this, but you're also getting tier 1 support. So you don't have to contact, you know, Shopify for this or, you know, QuickBooks for that, or right, or whatever others, Andrea, that you threw out, right?
Oh my God, yeah.
You just contact Rick and Kathy and say, I don't know where the problem is, but this is not working. Can you, you know?
That's value. That's a lot of value.
And then we may say, oops, looks like it's a QuickBooks issue. We're going to have to contact them. And then either we open the ticket with QuickBooks or you open the ticket with QuickBooks. But, you know, you get the point, is that we're the first call.
It's just a different relationship. So, you know, whatever works for you. We really
very helpful.
didn't want to push.
Good. Yeah, I mean, I wanted to talk about this stuff. I've been very actively, you know, helping with Evanston Made in the background. But it wasn't, you know, with the intention that, you know, 50 artists would want us to suddenly build their websites, but we are available to help for those that want help.
So 2 public service announcements. Remember that this
Great,
recording
thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank
this
you.
recording
Thanks,
will
Claire.
live on the Evanston Made website under professional development tab. So if there's anything you want to go back and reference, it will be there for the foreseeable future. So there's that. And then while I have this interested group, we are doing programming for the rest of the year and into spring. Are there any further topics in terms of websites that you would like to go down a rabbit hole? We can have Rick come back and talk about something specific. Something we didn't cover today, or more of one of the things we covered today.
Maybe the uniform industry. Anybody?
Lawnmowers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys. Have a nice evening.
Thank you. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Rick.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you. I'll post the recording for you, Liz.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.